Thank you very much. Hari Bol. Jai. We have up till 7, is that right? Including any comments or questions. Thank you. Many of you are not from this area of the country, of course, and from other parts of New Zealand. Some of you are from the Bhakti Lounge. How many are from the Bhakti Lounge this evening? Anyone from the back? 3 or 4? Maybe one lady, I'm not sure. Where are you from? Wellington? You look. Palmerston North. Are you from Indian family or Western?
My mum's Indian.
Mum's Indian. That's why you look a bit of both.
Yeah.
Where's your mum? Is she here?
She's not here.
She didn't. You didn't. You came alone?
Yeah, with friends. Yeah.
Friends. Thanks for coming. First time here?
No.
What's your name?
Nikhil.
Nikhil. Thank you, Rose, from Bhakti Lounge last night for arranging the Janananda program, and most of you were not there, of course. We had a wonderful program last night to glorify Lord Janananda, and I think you're having a program on Monday. Is that right? You all want to take shelter of Lord Janananda, so this coming Monday is a great opportunity for you all, whether you're in Auckland or I guess in Auckland also there's going to be with Auckland devotees. Anyone here from Auckland yet? Yeah, no, right. Ananda, you're having a program on Monday for Lord Nityananda? Try not to miss it if you can, it's so important. Lord Nityananda is the gateway to the love of God. He's the gateway. You can't get in, you've got to go through the gateway, isn't it? You can't climb over the wall. It's not possible not to get to the kingdom of God. You might be able to squeeze into the Brahma Jyoti, but not into the kingdom of God in terms of the personal association of the Lord. That we have to go through Lord Nityananda. So take advantage of that on Monday. And of course, Lord Nityananda is manifested in every single one of you in many ways. Every single devotee, anyone who's practicing Krishna consciousness, Lord Nityananda is present there in various degrees, and especially those who are representing Srila Prabhupada acting in the role of Siksha, Diksha Gurus. They're representing Lord Nityananda, so we have to bear that in mind. We are ourselves, we are whatever we're condition we're in, you could say, but we're trying to represent Lord Nityananda. The mood of Lord Nityananda, which, as was mentioned earlier, to connect people or reconnect people in their eternal relationship with Krishna. As is Lord Nityananda's. He's opened up, it said, he's opened up the floodgates of love of God. It's like, especially in Kali Yuga, it's like that ocean is being held back in Kali Yuga. It's very hard to access. The most you generally get is some reverential appreciation. But Lord Nityananda he's cut a channel, and the water from that great ocean is flooding into the world. His desire is that everyone drown in that ocean. Generally, we don't like to drown. I don't know if I've never met anyone who's told me what it's like yet, who actually drowned in the ocean. But I'm sure it's not very pleasant. We don't like to drown. For a fish, it's quite nice being in the ocean, but not for us. It's not our normal position to drown in the ocean. But he wants us to drown in the ocean that we discussed yesterday morning, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The ocean of pure loving devotional service. Huh? Drown in that ocean. It means, what does it mean? Completely immerse ourselves in the devotional practice of hearing, chanting and so on. But Lord Nityananda has made that available and access to that through his mercy, that one can enter into not just the practice itself, but the result of practice, enter into the spiritual association. Prabhupada wanted us to go back to Golok Vrindavan. You may not want to, everyone's individual ultimate choice, you could say, but that is the desire of Lord Nityananda, to bring us all back, to bring pleasure to Krishna. So we'll start with the kirtan, and then I thought, well, I actually got my calendar jumbled up. I thought today was Ramanujaacarya's Tirabha, but it was apparently yesterday, and it got kind of at least in my day, I wasn't conscious of it. So today I thought I'd try to speak a few words about Ramanujaacarya, because although he's in a different discipline succession, Lord Chaitanya very much spent time actually with the devotees of the Sri Sampradaya. He spent quite a bit of time with Sri Rangam. I don't know, a few months in Sri Rangam. They're discussing with the devotees of the Sri Sampradaya in various ways. And he personally very much appreciated Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj himself. He also studied the Sri Sampradaya and all the Sampradayas, of course, but particularly the Sri Sampradaya, which was considered quite very close to the Gaudiya life in many ways, not in terms of our kind of, let's say, transcendental objectives, slightly different in terms of mode of worship or objective, or the form of Godhead whom we worship, but basically the same. And especially, he liked very, very much two or three major principles of the Sri Sampradaya. I can't remember exactly 2 out of 3, but there's several which stand out very clearly in the Sri Sampradaya, at least when it was formed by Ramanujaacarya, because he was already there, but he's the one who kind of really established it, and established his kind of like his Siddhanta, once you could say. What is the, what particular aspects of the Sri Sampradaya are very, very special, prominently emphasized by Ramanujaacarya, who was the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. Pardon? Yes?
Vaishnava Seva and Shuddha Bhakti.
Pure devotion and Vaishnava Seva. Vaishnava Seva was the most prominent, to serve the devotees, and Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion. So of course philosophically that's another thing, the Shuddha Dvaita or whatever its name is, philosophy I can't remember. But the distinct difference, there's 2, not 1. In Mayavada it's all 1. 2. There's God and His energies. There are 2. Of course they come from God, but they're they have their own distinct existence. It's not that they don't have their own individual existence as well. So particularly the soul is eternally and separately, is in its own right, so to speak, a separate entity. Although we understand, of course, we come from the Supreme Lord. But his philosophy was dualist, mainly emphasizing dualism. Why? Because the main philosophy of the time was monism or oneness. So you had to, step by step, different stages of let's say, emphasis were placed by Shankaracharya and other acharyas, Ramanujan and Madhvacharya, finally Lord Chaitanya, to bring everything together in its right fusion and big picture. So he really had to establish this, though Buddha was also there before, to establish this, there is a distinction between us and God. Sure, there are many similarities, but there's also some distinctions. So he emphasized the distinctions. So tonight we'll try to hear, or try to imbibe some of these characteristics of pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti. He was also very, Sri Sampradaya, they're quite, let's say, strict in their deity worship. You may, obviously, it depends on individuals, so to speak, but in principle they're very strict in their deity worship, quite into the rules and regulations. They're very strong on rules and regulations of deity worship. There's another aspect of their Sampradaya. Of course, Guru Bhakti inclusive. In Vaishnava Seva, Guru Bhakti is service to the Guru is also very, is there in every Sampradaya, but especially they're very strong in Guru Bhakti. So we'll start with a little kirtan, and then we'll see what Krishna allows to happen. We'll just sing a song known to you called the Hare Krishna Mantra. You don't need a book for that. Familiar, it'd be too complicated to sing a song in the short time we have. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Tale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Vasyachadeshatane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Vasyachadeshatane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Janananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Veda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Veda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna
Hari Hari Bol.
Okay, everyone settle down. Ladies, especially the ladies.
We are going to children's class.
Pardon?
We are going to children's class.
Oh, they're going for a special class. Maybe I should go there. I'm sure they'll be much more interesting than the one here. Special class for the young ones. This is for senior citizens, so anyone under 65, there's a special class over there. This is for senior citizens only here. 65 plus. Anyone 65 plus? I know one or two are. You are?
Millions of
Including previous lives.
Pardon?
Including previous lives.
That's no. You don't know either. My previous life, I didn't live that long in the body of a worm. Worms don't live 65 years. Cockatoos and worms. Anyway, settle down everybody, please, as soon as you can. Let's have a bit of attention here. Come on, everyone. Let's have a bit of shanty. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Chakshura-militani Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Vishnu Sapitami Swayam Rupagadamaya Dadati Svapadam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavaru Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikata Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwavanu Sute Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So please keep me awake. If I fall asleep, wake me up. I'll try to stay awake. We're leaving in the morning early at 3 o'clock, flying to Sydney. So we're going to be a little busy. I may not be able to stay too long after the class. We have a lot to do this evening. But the most important thing we have to do in our lives is to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. Nothing else is of much value in the bigger picture, is it? We have to do many things in our lives, and we associate with many different types of individuals and whatever in our lives. But the most valuable thing, at least, is that opportunity to get their association. But at least we can hear about it and hopefully develop a desire. Because if the desire is developed and if it's strong, Krishna will indeed fulfill that desire. The pure devotees are so merciful, even if we don't desire, which most of us don't, and of course all of you here do, but I'm talking general terms here. People in the world generally are not thinking, how can I get the association of a pure devotee? How many people think like that? Hardly anybody, but very, very rare. And it's one of the reasons it's extremely rare to get the opportunity, because practically nobody wants it. We're not in this world to associate with pure devotees. We're in this world for the opposite. We want to, to associate with the illusion, separatist mentality from Krishna. The pure devotees, they come to rectify that diseased condition of life, that illusion that we're in. But we're not interested to hear from them. quite often we don't want to hear from them. Even though they may be present, we somehow or another we don't seem to care. We tolerate all kinds of things in our daily lives. In family life, the husband, wife, they tolerate so many things, isn't it? The wife has to tolerate one side, the husband, it depends, every family is different. Maybe the husband has to tolerate sometimes all kinds of difficulties, insults, this, that, the other. But he has to maintain a family and he tolerates left, right and centre. The wife tolerates left, right and centre. But when it comes to the instruction of the spiritual master, no tolerance. I go away, don't tell me. Tell me what I want to hear. Bless me, give me my material desires, fulfill them. Sometimes we think of the Guru like that, but that's not the business of the Guru. The Guru's business is to cut that out, isn't it? The Guru is supposed to be heavy with knowledge, how to remove the ignorance. And because sometimes we hear heavy, whatever it takes, but the spiritual master wants to see that we get free from our entrapment in this material world, captivated. We're not going to go there. We've spoken a lot about that in the last few days. But tonight we're going to try to get that opportunity in the form of, say, hearing about and maybe some of the lessons to learn. Some things which we may be able to learn. So we don't have much time to get into whatever little historical facts that we are fortunately able to receive from the biographies of Ramanujaacarya. There's also Madhvacharya, but we don't have time. But this Ramanujaacarya generally is a little bit closer. Funnily enough, we're in the Madhva Sampradaya, but for most of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Ramanujaacarya is, somehow or another, is a little bit more common, isn't it? In our kind of references and our attractions and so on. Not so much for the daily worship, maybe, though some devotees are very attracted to the reverential worship of the Sri Sampradaya. They're very attracted, I know. And they follow that regime. Many devotees have adopted in their pujas and so on. Although the mood is a little different in their Sampradaya, but nonetheless, it's very much akin in many ways, especially in the most primary thing of all. In many ways, the most primary thing in our lives is Vaishnava Seva. In terms of, the various types of Seva. Vaishnava Seva is keyful. Even Nam Seva, without Vaishnava Seva, Nam will never be pleased. And your efforts to chant the name, is not going to reciprocate. Krishna is not going to reciprocate if it's not with favorable Vaishnava Seva. It must be there. We may make many mistakes in different types of services. Many sort of Seva apparatus may be there in terms of our activities and so on and so forth. We may make some philosophical miscalculations. We may not judge people properly in terms of the public. We may still maintain some prejudices here and there. But if somehow or another we can imbibe and emphasize Vaishnava Seva in our lives, then Krishna is very pleased. And Nam Seva will also be very effective as service to the name. So as we heard just from Nanga, he very much emphasized this principle of Vaishnava Seva. And many other things. Let's quickly run through a few things which come to mind. As far as his appearance in this world, we're not going too much detail. He appeared somewhere in a town. Have you ever been to Kanchipuram? It's some distance from Madras, Chennai. Near there in one village, and mother, father, they were both very pious, not necessarily pure Vaishnavas, but some degree. There's often a mixture of sentiments amongst pious Indian people. So it seemed like a mixture. They sent him when he was a young child. It just so happened that the local school, was managed by a Mayavadi, a very ardent, fixed-up Mayavadi, very well-learned Mayavadi named Yadava Prakash. Yadava Prakash was really, he really was a strong Mayavadi in personal philosophy. Didn't accept the personality of God as an eternal factor by any means. So Ramanujaacarya was brought up in that school. And different reasons may be there given, but primarily, from the positive point of view at least, is that one of his major contributions was to counter the Mayavad philosophy. It's actually dismantled its arguments. So he heard all the arguments in the school, all the philosophy of Mayavad from Glorification. Previous to Ramanujaacarya, in the Sri Sampradaya, Janananda, you've heard the name Janananda, was the prominent acharya in Sri Ranga, which was the centre of the Sri Sampradaya at that time. And Janananda is another beautiful long story of Janananda, of course. But there was no one he could see who would really be, let's say, quite right. He had many wonderful disciples, but no one who could be the actual acharya. They'll line one person acharya like that. He couldn't see any one particular person to take the reins, so to speak, for the disciplic line, and amongst his disciples. And he heard about Ramanuj from various, he actually had a disciple who also lived in that same village, Bharadravaj. Lived in the same village, and he worshipped the deity. He didn't worship the deity in doing puja. He was a Sevite to the deity. He was actually born in a Shudra family, but he was a pure devoted Lord. One of the key factors also of the Ramanujaacarya, particularly, and also Janananda to some extent, was that they gave the same thing in Lord Chaitanya's line, the same thing was there, that anyone can become a Brahmin. They would be, by proper initiation, proper training like that. So anyway, for the caste Brahmins, they didn't accept him as anything more than a low-class Shudra. But Ramanujaacarya got a lot of his association. That was the key. He spent a lot of time with this disciple of Janananda and became very much, naturally, awoke his natural devotion. He was given the name Lakshman at birth, which is very interesting because it's understood from all the later biographers of the time. They were later to his birth. Those who wrote the biographies, and throughout his life it was clear that he was none other than Lakshman himself, appearing in the form of Ramanujaacarya. And why Ramanuja is a follower of Ram? Well, Lakshman is a follower of Ram, isn't he? He's the best follower of Ramchandra besides Sita Devi, of course. He's the best. Lakshman was like inseparable in his service to Ram. Nothing could sway him at all. So attached. So Ramanujaacarya was a form of Lakshman like that. Madhvacharya. They're all different incarnations of the Lord or the Lord's expansions like that. Madhvacharya is Vayu, God of the wind. Also Bhima. Hanuman also appears in the form of Madhvacharya. We also had this Tiruvalla yesterday. So Ramanujaacarya is Lakshman. So he was known as Ramanuj as well as Lakshman in many ways. So he had this childhood like this. But at school he was being educated by a Mayavadi, and one time Ramanujaacarya heard about him from his disciple there. So he went there personally, but when he saw that Ramanuj was in the school of Yadav Prakash, he didn't approach him. He kept at a distance and actually prayed to the Lord to release him from the association of that Mayavad. It is so, well, what can we say? The whole world is pervaded with Mayavad philosophy from top to bottom. In most of the religions of the world are primarily Mayavad. At least their prominent, you could say, emphasis is more on that side. There's very little of the real theistic personal understanding of Godhead. He's love, he's an energy, he's all-pervading, he's the creator. Being the creator is a little active. But mostly it's just his energetic existences. And the guru is God. All these type of things come into the modern day interpretations and influences. It may not be pure Mayavad by any means, but it's the influence of Mayavad. So he was very much a full-on Mayavadi. And various times, well, especially one time, Ramanuja was massaging his teacher, Yadav Prakash, because he accepted Ramanuja as his best, because Ramanuja was like Superman in terms of study, and his behavior was so pucker. He was a pucker person. First class behavior. And very, very quick at learning everything. He was such a very, just a very attractive personality. Yadav Prakash, at that time, obviously didn't know the inner heart of Ramanuja, but he just took him as his number one disciple, basically, or number one student. And he would regularly massage Yadav Prakash's feet, his feet and his legs. Anyway, whatever. And one time Yadav Prakash was talking about a verse, was Ramanuja's massaging, which describes the beautiful features of the Lord. You know, how his eyes and his beautiful mouth and everything are so, and for a Vaishnava it means they're just like beautiful lotus, like lotus petals, you know, lotus flowers. But he interpreted it to mean, you know, the reddish lips of the Lord, and they're very beautiful, just like the blossoming red lotus flower, and like that, you know. But he interpreted, Yadav Prakash interpreted it as being as red as a monkey's ass. And he spoke like it. This was, for Ramanuja, this was unbearable to hear his spiritual guide, his teacher, speak like this. He started to cry and cry. What's wrong with you? Why are you crying? You seem to be disturbed by something. What is it? Then Ramanuja then explained the Vaishnava meaning of this verse. Yadav Prakash said, oh my God. He never said, oh my God, I don't believe in God. He was, oh no, who have I got in my school? This boy can be very dangerous. He's going to ruin everything if he stays here. I don't care. As they say, one rotten apple in a basket can ruin the whole basket, right? You have any fruit with fungus on or rotten, you have to get it out quick because it will make the whole basket rotten. So he was seeing it like that. Of course, it was opposite, but that's how he was seeing it. So he was still showing affection, so he made a plot. He plotted. So there's many lessons you can pick up here. Maybe we'll ask if you can pick a few up afterwards, okay? I want you to make note in your mind or on paper or on your mobile or wherever you make notes. Anything you pick up here which might be valuable. And maybe if there's nothing, so be it. If there's anything, share it with us afterwards. So then he made a plan. What was his plan? His plan was to kill Ramanuja. Can you imagine? Such an envy to it. Such an envious mentality. Sometimes we feel like that when we don't agree with someone. We wish we could get rid of them. Sometimes it's like altogether. So he said, all the students, we're going to go on a pilgrimage to Prayag. Oh, everyone's in Prayag right now. To the river Ganga. But his plan was there to kill Ramanuja. And then we'll take baths in the river Ganga, and we'll be freed of the sin of killing Ramanuja. So they did. Ramanuja had no idea what was going on. So they all went there to the river Ganga, and when they got there, it so happened one of Ramanuja's cousins named Govinda was also in the school. And somehow or another, he heard this plot. See, Yadav Prakash discussed it with a few of his very ardent Mayavadi disciples. They were going to do something. So Govinda leaked the message out to Ramanuja. And in the middle of the night, the next day they were going to do it. Middle of the night, Ramanuja disappeared from the party and went into the jungle. In the morning, everyone woke up. Nobody could find him. Yadav Prakash thought this was very good. Providence is very kind, has done the work for me. And they all concluded at the end, you know, he perhaps got eaten by a tiger or drowned himself or something. Nobody knew, but they concluded this young man was no more. So they were kind of semi-satisfied. But Ramanuja went here, walking, and didn't really even know where he was going. And many stories on the way we don't know. But eventually he arrived back in where he came from, in Kanchipuram. Yadav Prakash was residing. So he came back there, and after a while, of course, Yadav Prakash returned. They didn't have mobiles with text messages. Tick, 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 he's back again, he's back here again. Oh no. They didn't know until they got back. So they got back there and thank God you're alive. We all thought you were dead. And it was like, you know how it is, you know, you try to put on a good face, but inside you're like, so it's a bit like that. But after a while, he just had to say, different things took place, and different of opinion over Vedic statements and so on were very obvious. He asked him to leave the ashram. But whilst he was in the ashram, another thing was very interesting. The local king of Kanchipuram, King Kolahala, I think his name was, something like that. He was a Shaivite. He was really a strong Shaivite. It's a little hard for us to imagine, but it was almost like this was where wars would take place almost. And nowadays we have what we call religious wars, but it's not really quite the same. But anyway, there was a thing between Vaishnavas and Shaivites, and Shaivites were very strong, still are in South India more or less. He was a Shaivite, and he decided he wanted everyone in his domain to be a Shaivite, right? Everyone. But at that moment, it was, this was on the menu. But his daughter, this king's daughter, became haunted by some evil spirits. And she was like crazy. She was gone mad. So he called, Yadava Prakash was famous as an exorcist. So he called Yadava Prakash to come to try to exorcise his daughter. But every time he tried something, the ghost would say, yeah, you can't do anything. You can't help me. You can't do anything to get me out of here. He would just laugh at Yadava Prakash, basically. I don't know if you ever experienced this. I've experienced this situation sometimes. And nothing could happen. But then the ghost said, only if Ramanujaacarya, there's an Acharya then, Ramanuj, your disciple, places his feet on the girl's head, will I leave this body. By no other means. Like a bit of a shock. It was humiliating for Yadava Prakash. But they brought Ramanuj, and sure, he put his feet on the head of the girl, and immediately the ghost or the spirit left. So the king was somewhat, quite impressed by that. He had a soft spot. Even though Ramanuj, of course, later on revealed his Vaishnava tendencies, the king maintained some degree of soft spot there. It wasn't a big one, but it was certainly enough. So anyway, after he left that school, then he spent his time with Maharaj, and spent his time just hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. Devotion. His mother got him married to a very Kanchilavala, a very beautiful young lady. And as they usually do, he was a teenager, they got married. In those days, if you weren't married, if a girl wasn't married by 12 or 13 years of age, there was something seriously wrong. Seriously wrong. Prabhupada's mother said to her father, Prabhupada's mother, and Prabhupada's sister, she was 12 years old, and Prabhupada's mother said, if you don't get my daughter married right now, I will commit suicide. Nowadays, you say the opposite. Right? Not if you do, you'll end up in prison. This society is so nonsense. So nonsense. They make all these things about child abuse, but they're creating child abuse by their stupid laws. They're creating it. Mad society, mad education, sex education, so-called. It's not sex education at all, it's sex perversion. But they create all these things. And then all this whole stupid thing about marriage. They have no idea what life's for, and they don't want to know. They just want everyone to become a gross sense enjoyer and suffer in hell, basically. It's so unfortunate. But what to do? So society still had these, maintaining these principles, knowing the higher purpose of life, even the Mayavadi, whatever, understood this principle. So he married young, his wife was young. But his wife was very much, she came from a high-class Brahmin family, and she was really a caste Brahmin girl. And she hated that her husband was associated with his Vadaraj, who was a low-class by birth, Shudra, who was elevated Vaishnava, pure devotee. But she couldn't tolerate it at all. And it really disturbed her that her husband was spending so much time like this with this low-class personality. This was very disturbing to Ramanuj. He really didn't at all like this situation in any way. So, of course, meanwhile, of course, in Sri Rangam, Yamunacharya was getting very, very old. And he was really concerned who's going to be the next Acharya in that line. He was convinced. He'd heard now that Ramanuj had left the Yadava Prakash's school. And so he sent a message with one of his disciples to bring him quickly because he was going to leave the world any time. So, I can't remember, Mahapurna, one of the disciples of Ramanujaacarya, was sent to the Kanchipuram to try to bring Ramanuja to Sri Rangam. He wanted to see him. So he did, he went there, and somehow or another, there was some little, as often is, it takes time, little delays sometimes take place on the way. But eventually he did, and he agreed to come. He went to Sri Rangam. But when he arrived at Sri Rangam, because Mahapurna told him at any moment Guru Maharaj could pass away. When they arrived there, the terrible news came, he's just left his body. Just left the world. So they rushed to the place. Ramanuja said, let's go quickly to the place. Where is his body? Where is it? They ran there. And Janananda was indeed in Samadhi. He already left the world. But he had 3 fingers like this, clenched. And Ramanuja saw that. Nobody noticed it, but he saw it. He said, is it normal that the Acharya has his fingers like this? Everyone looked and said, no. We've never seen that before. Nobody could understand why he's got his fingers like this. So then he made 3 vows. Ramanuja said that he will write a bhashya on the Sri Sampradaya, which will defeat all of them. One finger came up. Then he said he will write a complete commentary on the Vaishnava, so down to various Vedic texts. A 3rd one came up. And establish, there are different opinions on that. He would initiate a disciple of the name Parasharar. 3, the finger came. There's another one I can't remember, different stories. But 3 things, he made statements right there in front of all the devotees who were lamenting around the body of Ramanujaacarya. He made these 3 statements. One by one, the fingers popped up. Everyone could understand that Ramanuja was definitely to become the new Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. But of course he had to finish off his business in Kanchipuram. So he went back, and he knew this was the time now, this family life. He'd only been married that long. We're not suggesting, well, of course you may say this is a good lesson to learn, that you should leave your family life if there's any problems in your family life, and immediately renounce the world and go to Vrindavan or something like that. You might think like that, but you've got to realize that, that because of the situation, Ramanujaacarya had a higher purpose. Devashi Bhutakminam Pitrinam, that famous verse, isn't it? Only if it's genuinely for a higher purpose, not just if we would like it to be or we think it is, and it actually is, then there is no other duty in life, you can see. And that sometimes happens with Shankaracharya and others. They leave home at a very early age and take sannyas, but usually not. So he decided that he was going to do that. But anyway, he went back to Kanchipuram, and he invited his spiritual mentor there in Kanchipuram, Bhargavash, for lunch one day. But a plan of the Lord was taking place here, a special plan which was about to unfold. So Bhargavash came, but he came a bit early for lunch. And Ramanujaacarya was still out with somewhere, doing something. And Bhargavash came, and Ramanuja wasn't in the house, just Kanchabala was there. She prepared all the lunch, everything was ready. She went along with her husband. She was chaste wife in one sense, you could say. And then the lunch was there, but her husband wasn't. So Bhargavash said, I've got to go early, I've got to rush off, I've got another duty to do, I'm really sorry, I must go. So she fed him at a distance. She pushed the plate towards him with a stick, a long stick. She wouldn't go near him. Pushed it there. Then he took prasadam. Then he left, and she got the plate and kind of took it and threw it out in the garbage, whatever was left on it, and threw it away. And then had one of her maidservants, clean the place up. And then after a while, Ramanuja returned and said, what happened? And where's Bhargavash? She said, oh, he had some other business. He came and went, oh, really? Because Ramanuja's whole purpose of this was similar to, Lord Chaitanya, like with Haridas Thakur, or Vaitacharya, Hari, was to show that anybody, no matter how fallen one are, you can become a pure devotee of the Lord. So his intention was to get the remnants of Varadaraja, the prasad remnants. So he asked, where's the plate? He said, oh, gone, thrown in the garbage. Low class man. Oh, I want. She was like, no, don't go near this, you know. But he was real upset, real upset. So it was almost the last straw. The last straw took place shortly afterwards, when I think it was maybe Varadaraja's wife. There's two different accounts. But one of them, either he or Mahapurna's wife, they were there in the house. Not in the house, but the well, in the villages. You probably still have that if you have a village in India. There's a village well where everyone comes to draw their water, you know. You don't have that, although this is called Wellington. I don't think there are many wells here where people draw their water from the well. But everyone's drawing their water, so they go there to draw their well. So it happened to be the wife of Varadaraja and Ramanuja's wife, Kanchabala. They're both there at the same time getting water. And a few drops of the water from Varadaraja's wife splashed into the bucket of Kanchabala, and she screamed, "You nonsense, low-class woman! You've contaminated my water!" She was really angry. And the poor lady, the poor wife, she was crying. She ran away. She was like so humbled. Devastated. And this news came to Ramanuja, this is the last straw. So he made a trick, he had a trick. And he actually, I think Maharaj himself, he sent it with a message to his wife saying, there's an important business in your hometown. One important member of the family is getting married, they need you there immediately. So when she received this, she was very happy to, you know, go home and see her family. So she immediately packed her bags and was laptop home. And Ramanuja, of course, packed his bags also and went the other way. That was the end of that. He set off. I set off towards Srirangam. First of all, he went before the deity, Varadaraja, in the town, village there, wherever it was. And in front of the deity, he accepted sannyas. Unusual, you could say, rather unusual. And then he went off towards Srirangam, and there he took shelter of the devotees, and of course the Ramanujaacarya already departed the world. So he was being educated in various lines of knowledge. There's a different system there in a sense, you know. We have the same system, and we don't employ it so much necessarily. But he had a guru, Mahapurna was one of them, teaching in various aspects of Sri Vaishnava philosophy and behavior, deity worship, and so on. And this was going on, and he was, of course, everyone recognized him. Already they knew his greatness. But there was one thing which cropped up after a while. He heard about one of the disciples named Gosipurna. He was a very special disciple of Janananda. He had been given a special mantra by Janananda, which was said to be the prime mantra, which was very secret mantra practically of the Sri Sampradaya. It's not secret now, but it was then. And it was suggested by the devotees that he should try to acquire this mantra so he become, really could become the most powerful acharya. So he went there to the place where Gosipurna was residing, and there he studied and served Gosipurna for days and weeks, but he wouldn't give him the mantra. He kept begging over and over again, but Gosipurna would not give him the mantra. This went on for a long time. Eventually Gosipurna succumbed to his humble requests. After many, 18 or more times he appealed to him. All right, but on one condition. This mantra is so powerful that anyone who chants this mantra will be liberated. But if you tell anyone else about this, then God only knows what will happen to you. You'll go to hell. Don't tell anyone else. This is secret mantra. Because anyone who chants it will be liberated. So he received this mantra from Gosipurna, and then he left there, that shrine. He went out, back to Sri Lanka, but on the way, many people gathered around him. There are different stories. You read every biography, you read everybody who's read it knows them. And anyway, this is the exciting one. he went and he thought, if this mantra is so great that anyone who chants it will be liberated, let me give it to everyone. And he gave it to all the people around him. They were all in ecstasy. And he gave them the mantra. And they were all in ecstasy. And quickly the news came back to Ghostipur, and he called one of his disciples, calling, back here right now, this nonsense. What nonsense are you? Just a few minutes after I give you the mantra, you disobey me? What is this? He was very angry. Don't you know the consequences of what is to happen now? Ramanuja humbly submitted to his Guru Maharaj. Yes, dear Guru Maharaj, Swami treated him like that. He was just one of his teachers. And said, yes, I fully accept that. I deserve whatever punishments come in my way. But my only thought is, if all these people can be liberated, let me rot in hell. It doesn't matter. Let them all be liberated. Because by this chanting they'll be liberated. Let them be freed. Let me suffer on their part. And his Guru suddenly realized, his teacher, Ghostipurna realized how great he was, and said, actually, you are my teacher and I am your student. Please forgive me. So then, of course, that mantra became the common mantra of the Sri Sampradaya. It's a very simple mantra, isn't it? I think you all know it. What was that mantra? Om Namo Narayana. Very simple. Of course, it has to be received. It doesn't work unless you receive it from the right source. Anyone can chant it, like they can chant Om, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna is a little different, but still it has to be for pure devotion. It has to be received from the right source, doesn't it? So there are many factors around that. So then he's in Sri Rangam, and of course now he's established, everyone's accepting, basically as the new Sampradaya-acharya. And he was many disciples. He was initiating grihastas, vanaprasthas. He had many brahmachari disciples, many sannyasi disciples. His cousin, I think, Govinda, was perhaps the first disciple, a couple of locals. Even his Yadava Prakash, believe it or not, when he went back one time to Kanchipuram, Yadava Prakash's mother was a Vaishnavi. She was a devotee. She didn't like it that her son was a Mayavadi. She wasn't a philosopher, she didn't know all the interviews, but she was basically a Vaishnavi. And she was always praying that her son would change. And she actually approached her son, that her son should take shelter of Ramanuj. And Yadava Prakash had a dream of the likes also, that he should do that. So anyway, one thing and another, after a while, they had a debate, and Ramanuj didn't even bother. He just asked his cousin, Koresh, he became known as Koresh, who had a photogenic memory. He could memorize everything. One time they went, Koresh and Ramanuj went up to the Himalayas, to the Bodhisattva ashrams, and they had these scripts, ancient scripts, Vedic scripts that were not available anywhere else, and there was only one copy was there. They wouldn't give it out. So they stayed there for about a week or two. He asked if he could copy them. They wouldn't let him do it. So in the middle of the night, Ramanuj did a thing. They took these scripts and disappeared, but the residents of the ashram caught them and took them back. So it was, because these were really powerful scripts for defeating all other philosophies. They had all the Shastric statements, all the Vedic statements for defeating Mayavad and what have you. So they lost it all. But Koresh said, don't worry. I read them during the night when everyone else was sleeping. I read them from beginning to end. I memorized every word by word. And he just wrote them all down again by memory. So they had them. And like that, he had a super memory. He was a really great devotee. And Yadava Prakash was defeated. Ramanuja just asked his disciple to debate, and he completely defeated Yadava Prakash. And Yadava Prakash fell dandavats at the feet of Ramanuja and begged forgiveness, and became a great disciple of Ramanuja, the Mayavad, the Vaishnava. And Ramanuja had him write a whole book on the principles of the sannyas, or the renounced order of life, which became the established text for the Sri Sampradaya on renunciation. He left his body sometime later, because he was already quite senior in age. But he did that great contribution, very powerful preacher. And then many things happened. That king called Hala, he was also went on the rampage, especially when he heard that Ramanuja was like converting people left and right to Vaishnavism. So he sent out a kind of a, what do you call it, people in every direction, men in every direction, with a, what do you call it, I think of a name, I don't know. But he sent it out with a kind of a decree. The decree says, I accept that Lord Shiva is God and no one else. And if you didn't sign it, your life was in danger, because he was a king. So basically he was forcing everyone to become a Shaivite. So they also came to Sri Rangam, and the idea was they were going to, anyone who disagreed had to come to the court of King Kolahala, and they would therefore debate or whatever it was, and even if you won, you still lost your head. There's no question. So he wasn't very, let's say, broad-minded in that sense. It was Lord Shiva or nothing. So this news came. So Koresh came up with the idea. He changed his dress. Koresh was Grihas. He changed his dress with Ramanuj. He put on sannyas, and Ramanuj dressed by Koresh. And all the guards, the king guards, were there to make sure no one escaped this, challenge. And so then, but Ramanuj dressed as a Grihas, they just walked through because they didn't think it was anything particular. And then they arrested Koresh and brought him back to Kanchi. And Koresh came before them. And then they had the debate. Koresh easily defeated him, but the king got so heavy, so strong, he said, I would kill you. But because he remembered early in life that he saved his daughter, said, instead of that, I will pluck out your eyes. So they had Koresh's eyes plucked out like that, just plucked out completely. Imagine what that felt. Koresh just took it as mercy that he had this opportunity to serve his guru. Didn't think, why is this happening to me? He thought, I'm the most merciful, fortunate soul to be able to render this service to my guru. Quite something. Anyway, his eyesight did come back afterwards, by the mercy of Ramanuj, and many things. So one of my favorite stories is a story of one of Ramanuj's disciples in Sri Rangam. One time Ramanuj was in the high street walking along in Lower Hutt, with the Sanktan party, and there was this rich big man, all black, I think he played for the New Zealand All Blacks, and he was a very strong, handsome looking chap, and he had his beautiful girlfriend there, and he was totally absorbed. Perhaps you've seen people like this on the street, I don't know. Totally absorbed in his girlfriend. He was totally oblivious to the passing Sankirtan party. Completely oblivious. You see them all the time on Harinam. People who are so absorbed in what they do, they don't even want to recognize your presence, even if they do. So he was literally absorbed. It wasn't that he was trying to avoid it. He was so absorbed in it, he never even noticed that the Sankirtan party was passing by. Such was his absorption in his girlfriend. She was quite beautiful. And so Ramanuj noticed this. Who's this fellow? And he sent one of his disciples over to try to get his attention, tapping him, not close enough, but tapping him on the shoulder. And eventually, this person kind of like, oh, yeah, what's happening? And he said, over there's the Acharya of Sri Rangam. Ramanuj, he's wondering, what are you doing? Why are you not paying any attention to the Sankirtan? Kind of trying to get his head back onto the platform of the earth. And he said, well, my girlfriend, what can I say? She's so beautiful, so beautiful. So Ramanuj said, people were a little bit civilized, you can say maybe a bit sensual in those days. And so he said, call him over. So he came over and they talked to him. So what is it about your girlfriend that's so captivating? And he said, her eyes are just magnetic, completely magnetic. And when we tell the story we told earlier on, the story we told the other day about taking him out and give it to you or something, he said, okay, if I can show you eyes which are more magnetic, what would you do? So this man, his name was Janananda. He was a wrestler by profession, a really expert wrestler. And he said, well, More attractive? I guess I become more attractive to the owner of those more attractive eyes. I said, okay, you come and see me tonight, 6:30, here at this one. So he came to see Ramanuj. He was, as I say, people were a little bit pious in those days, even if they were materialistic. So he came there, and they met, and Ramanuj took him inside the temple. How many of you have been to Sri Ranga? Quite a few. You've seen the deity there. The deity's name? Ranganatha. In a very beautiful reclining form. Beautiful form of Ranganatha. And he's got amazing eyes, if you've ever seen. Now, of course, they have electricity. They didn't have electricity in those days. Everything was by lamp. So it was a little dark. You go in the inner sanctum. Ramanuj was the Acharya. Took him right into the inner sanctum, right in front of Maharaj. Right at the moment that the ghee lamp is being offered. And so the whole face of the Ranganatha illuminated, and his beautiful lotus eyes were completely visible. And because he was with Ramanujaacarya, he was so fortunate to be there, the Lord reciprocated, and this Janananda suddenly saw in his heart of hearts the beautiful lotus eyes of Lord Ranganatha. His heart just was captivated, completely captivated. And he just surrendered to Ramanuj as his disciple. And his girlfriend, he got married, and his new wife, she also surrendered. They became first-class grihastas, first-class disciples. Very rich man. And some of the devotees, and Ramanuj liked to spend time with him. He was such a surrendered devotee. Prapati was another major factor. The surrender, the mood of complete surrender, pure bhakti, complete surrender. So he was really a surrendered soul. But some of the devotees, especially when you're brahmacharis and sannyasis, you get a little puffed up sometimes. You think you're superior to others. The grihastas are all, kacha, second rate. We're the real ones. So he could see this sometimes mentality coming in some of his brahmachari sannyasi to say, don't get puffed up, grihastas, now. Now you're all thinking, oh, okay, we're the best devotees. Those sannyasis are all sense enjoyers. They live in ivory towers and they think they're important. Anyway, some of the brahmacharis. So Ramanuj employed a plot. He had one of his disciples go, you wash your clothes, you hang them up in the drying room or wherever outside. He had them switch all the clothes around, kopans, gamchas, dhotis. He had them all moved around. So the brahmacharis came looking for their kopans. Hey, someone stolen my kopans! You've got my kopans! Give my kopans back! We don't know what they are. Let's say some of you know. You've got my dhoti! Keep my dhoti! Why have you got my dhoti? You've stolen my dhoti! They were all kind of freaking out there. It was chaos in the ashram. And Ramanuj is watching this chaotic scene. And after all, things got sorted. And then he said, and there are different stories here, but he said one to his disciples, this, my disciple Janananda, I've been trying to bring him around. That's why I've been spending so much time with him. He's so attached to his family life. But I've been trying to, don't get it wrong, I've been trying to convince him. That's why I've been spending so much time with him. But I think, you should really, for yourself, see how it works. So he sent some one, sometimes said more, to the house of Janananda. And he said, you go there now and you'll just see how attached he is. Then you'll understand how difficult it is for him to transform his consciousness. I'll call him here, so he won't be there when you go. Just the wife will be there. And you've got to devise a plan to steal some of their jewelry. And you see for yourself just how attached they are. So they did this. He called Danadas to him on Nush that day. And some of them went to the house of his wife. It so happened when they got there, they were looking through the window and they could see inside the house. She was there and she was resting on the bed. She was lying down on her side. And they could see her arms were covered in jewelry, opulent jewelry. And so they sneaked in very quietly. She was completely aware of this. They sneaked in very quietly. They emptied it all out the cupboards into bags. Then they slipped it carefully off her fingers and her arms, but they couldn't reach the other arm because she was lying on it. So suddenly she turned over, and they thought that, she's waking up. So they quickly disappeared before she saw them with all that they had, and ran back with all their valuables. Meanwhile, Ramanuja sent Janananda back home. When he got home, he saw his wife there. And he said, what happened? You've got jewelry on only one arm. What happened to the other one? Then she explained the whole story. She said, I think they were really having some problems with financial problems in the ashram. They must have been, some difficulty there. So some of the brahmacharis came here today, and, they must have needed some wealth. So I was fully aware, but I kept my eyes closed, and so they could take all the jewels out of the cupboard first. And then when they took them off the one arm, I tried to turn over so they could get them from the other arm. But unfortunately, they ran away. You stupid woman! You're so attached. You should have stayed still. They could have possibly gotten them off the arm. So actually the brahmacharis were witnessing this. Ramanuja also had them come back and see this. And they could just see who is attached and why and to what. Who is attached? Nothing to do with your gender, nothing to do with your ashram or whatever it may be, or environment. It's a state of consciousness. So he was a great devotee, this Janananda. He had so many wonderful devotees, so many things. And he taught so many things in their time as experiment. One time he was with many of his sannyasi disciples. They were walking somewhere. They came to this pond, and they took their prasadam by the edge of the pond. And Ramanuja then took some remnants from his plate, threw them into the pond. And all the fishes, when you throw things on the pond, sometimes you see it. Have you seen that? All the fishes suddenly zoom to the surface, don't you? They go, oh no, you got it just right. They don't know what it is that. If it's something edible, they immediately go for it. Hundreds of them sometimes come up. All these fishes came to the surface, took Ramanuja's remnants, and suddenly they assumed 4 armed forms, flew out of the lake and went back to Vaikuntha. Ramanuja wasn't even watching, he just threw them in the water and walked off. All the other sannyasis were still behind him, they saw what happened. Krishna, what happened? What happened? What's going on here? So they called up with Ramanuja and said, Ramanuja could see there was something on their mind. He said, what's the problem? And they just explained what happened. How did this happen? What do you mean, how this happened? They took Mahaprasad. What do you expect to happen? But we're taking it every day. It hasn't happened to us. They were kind of like, well, what's going on here? And Ramanuja said, yes, but you have your false ego. And you're committing offenses. You're committing offenses. Those fish have no false ego. They're just fish. They're just acting as fish. They have no other agenda. There's no misagenda. Because the powerful remnants of Ramanujaacarya, by his grace, they went back to Vaikuntha. They said, because you still commit offenses, you can't expect that to happen. Many different stories. Another favourite story, famous story, we just have just enough time to tell that. And you can think of hundreds of others. Two quickest. One where I think it was Govinda, who went to get preparation for his Guru Maharaj's coming to one village somewhere. And he was they were preparing some kind of bed, simple straw bed or something. And he himself personally lied down on the bed. His disciple. And this is a very sinful thing to do. He's pointed out, don't you know this is very simple? He said, I don't care. I just want to make sure the bed is soft and is comfortable for my Guru Dev. It doesn't matter. I'm willing to suffer and go to hell as long as my Guru is comfortable. Another time, they went to they were going on pilgrimage, they were going to this town where he had a few disciples, they were a rich one and a poor one. And they were coming to the town, so he sent message to many disciples with Ramanuja, and they were going there, so he sent a couple of them ahead talk to the disciples who were there to make arrangements for the devotees when it came. So they went forward, and they went to they said, go to the one who were rich or the poor disciples. What can they do? They've already got a house of their own. They've got no money or anything. They live in poverty life. So go to the rich one. So they went to the rich one, and the rich one received them at the door and said, wonderful. They said, we come with a message from Ramanujaacarya, Guru Maharaj. I said, yes, what is that? Oh, he's coming soon. He wants you to make all the preparations. Oh, yes, we will do it straight away. Yes, tell him everything, whatever is necessary, we will do it. So they went back, and they didn't do anything else. They just went back to Ramanuja and told Ramanuja, very good. And how were you received there? How did you get reception? Well, he said he was very happy. And did he feed you? Did he give you some place to rest? Did he treat you like a titi? Did he really treat you well? Well, it was okay. I mean, he just said thanks, and we came back, Okay, we will not go there. We'll go to the poor house. So then they went to the poor house, who was poor. They explained what was happening. And the husband was away, the wife didn't know what to do, and it was completely perplexing. She had nothing. She couldn't even come out of the house. She didn't have proper clothing to present herself practically. She was so poor. And she was. But something came to her mind. Although she was poor, she happened to be very beautiful. And there was one rich merchant in the town who was always trying to tempt her. Always. So she thought this is the only hope. She went to that man and offered herself to him. Whatever you like, she said, but please do this first. Please provide everything that's necessary for my Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Oh, very nice. Very good. Yes, I will do that. No problem. And she knew she was chaste and honest. So he provided everything that was required. And everything was arranged, unknown to the husband. He was away at the time. Everything was arranged. And when Ramanuja arrived with his party, there was a great reception. Accommodation was available. Wonderful food was available, sitting places, everything was available. At that time, the husband came back and said, what's going on here? What happened? Because he'd gone out trying to he couldn't get anything. He came up with nothing practically. He was trying to find some way of wealth or something. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But everything was already there. Then she explained everything to her husband. The husband was overwhelmed with her Guru Bhakti. So deep, so deep. Again, this is not something we can imitate in our present situation, but her Guru Bhakti was so deep, so advanced, devotee. And then Ramanuja, of course, also found out what happened. So he said, don't worry, tonight you go to that rich merchant. So she went there, and by the grace of Ramanuja, she also completely changed his mind. Completely. He fell down, totally remorseful, and surrendered to Ramanuja as a father. So by the mercy of such a pure devotee, everything is possible. And there are many other stories which could come to mind. That's enough for tonight. And it's glorious to hear about these wonderful examples which are given, these wonderful Vaishnavas who share with us the spirit of pure devotion. One very last one. Sometimes some of his disciples were asking, what is full surrender? Papati, because this is a major thing, his doctrine, full surrender. He said, I can't mention it to them, but anyway, he said, call one tailor, blind tailor here now, and you all go. So they went outside, and they were outside, but they were kind of looking in, and this blind tailor came, couldn't see practically, they brought him, somebody brought him. And then Ramanuja said, come here, bow down, surrender. The tailor was so simple, he fell down at the feet of Ramanujaacarya and completely surrendered. Totally, without any inhibition whatsoever. Totally surrendered. This is full surrender. It's not a question of whether you're blind, lame, deaf, dumb. It's a question of our consciousness. Not to do with what we know, what we do, where we're from, who we are. It's a question of our heart. This Taylor completely surrendered on the spot. He had no good qualifications in terms of adhikar, so to speak. But there and then he completely surrendered to Ramanuja. So this is pure devotion, full surrender. So that's what we're aiming at. And yes. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. Ramanujaacarya ki jai. Any one point? We've got 2 minutes left. Any point? Oh, I was going to ask you. So what lessons? Okay, we'll just give 5 minutes for lessons, okay? Any lessons? Any lessons to learn? Anybody? Did you pick up anything at all? Nothing. Nothing at all. I bet you're wishing you went to the class in the back now. Any lessons? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. As you mentioned, Maharaj, that Nam Seva would be placed without Vaishnava Seva.
Keep it a little bit further for your mouth, I can't hear.
Nam Seva would not be placed without Vaishnava Seva.
Very good. That was an early one, isn't it? That was related, linked with the whole process of Ramanujaacarya's teachings. Although it may not have been said specifically, we said that at the beginning. That your Nam Seva, without appropriate Vaishnava Seva, will not bear the fruit. You'll get some fruit, but it won't be the real fruit. You'll get some material return, maybe even liberation, but you will not get Krishna. You won't get Krishna. Anything else? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I've got 2 things to share, Maharaj. I'm associated with pure devotees.
Okay, very important.
And you should be ready to sacrifice anything for your Guru, Maharaj.
What was the second one?
You should be ready to sacrifice everything for your Guru.
We should be ready to sacrifice everything for the service of Guru and Guranga. Mission of the Guru. That is what we're trying to achieve, isn't it? We may not be at that point right now, but we can get inspiration by hearing about these examples of these wonderful devotees who show us the principle of surrender to Guru. If in doubt, we also have to consult. We don't speculate about it. We may have to consult. Anything else? Yes.
Even a tinge of false ego will hold us back.
Yes, even a little bit of false ego will be holding us back. We have to surrender everything. This is, of course, again and again, this instruction, Sarvadharma in particular. Give up all other forms of shelter. We're taking shelter of our false ego as well. We have to be willing to give up everything if we want to get full protection of the Lord. I've been telling that story several times recently of Draupadi, so same story applies there too. Only when she fully surrendered to Krishna protect her. Gave up a false ego thinking, I can do it. And very nice. Anything else? You had your hand up, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, very nice class. The point which you did, for higher purpose, you
A
can,
little further away from the mouth.
for higher purpose, you can leave the lower purposes and engage in the higher purpose.
For higher purpose. We can abandon everything. Say, there's a whole thing, isn't there? You abandon whatever it is. You abandon the village for the town for the country for humanity. You abandon everything for the service of the Lord. But we don't do that whimsically. That can be misconstrued and misunderstood. So again, especially with that one, we would really need some, unless we're transcendentally self-realized soul, we have to consult with others to understand how to apply that principle. Because otherwise you can take it whimsically and you'll give up something which you shouldn't give up. And you're not ready for it, or it's something which is... Prabhupada didn't tell George Harrison, for instance, to give up his music. He told him to carry on doing it. It wasn't easy for him because he had to associate with materialistic people. He had to continue, he wasn't strong enough to avoid continuing with his material habits, smoking and this and that. He was still smoking and various things even to the end. But his music was so powerful that he influenced millions of people. There's 2 things. One is the inner heart, and the other is the external activity. External activity may be sinful, but if it facilitates the, say, the inner heart, sometimes it's even acceptable. Many pure devotees themselves seem to be indulging in activities which we would not normally do. So it's a very fine line. The pure devotees can ascertain that line. So you have to be a little bit careful not to whimsically say, somebody else did it, I'll do it. But we're not ready for it, it will have the opposite effect sometimes. Everything. Family is ruined, you're ruined, and the preaching is ruined. So it has to be done very carefully. But that's the very important thing. What is the highest purpose of human life? Any last one? Anyone more?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the wonderful class. The last point is, Vaishnavas are compassionate, like Ramanujaacarya gave the mantra to everyone, despite his own group.
This is the mood of the Vaishnava. Paradukha-dukhi. He cannot tolerate to see others suffer in this world. He cannot tolerate to see that Krishna's pleasure is less than it could be. Radharani is not satisfied. She wants Krishna to be more happy. So they try to do that which will bring more release to the living entities in this world and also bring more pleasure to Krishna. At the risk, we see Vasudeva Datta, who took that on himself. Let them all be delivered. Let me go to hell forever. Let everyone else be delivered back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada said, I do not mind going to hell. I don't mind. I would do whatever required. I just want to satisfy my spiritual master to fulfill his orders. Slightly different examples, the same principle. For the sake of others, for the sake of pleasing Krishna, the devotee would do anything, even at their own risk. Again, we may not be at that level of maturity, but these examples are what we're trying to follow and ultimately imbibe in our lives, is selflessness. Or the service of Koresh, how he served his Guru Maharaj under absolutely crazy situations. He's willing to undergo that. And a very important lesson, he didn't in any way blame his spiritual master. If that happened to us, we'd probably curse our spiritual master forevermore or something. Not that Krishna would accept that, but we would feel like that, because I did that, my eyes blocked out or something. And we do that on little things. I convinced my spiritual master to let me marry so-and-so, and it didn't work. It's all his fault, That's a regular one. Very, very regular. Or do something mundane, you blame. Never like that. That's a big obstacle on the path of bhakti. Well, I wish we could go on and on and on with digging deeper and deeper, but you can think about these things. You can read more if you want. You don't need to. But it's worthwhile. Imbibing this, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj imbibed these traits of Ramanujaacarya into the Sampradaya. He wanted the Sampradayas to be working in harmony to spread the truth of Krishna Bhakti. We didn't want us to work against each other. We may not have the same line of action, we may have details that are different, but the objective goal should be the same. We should see that, appreciate the goal. At the immature stage, we only look at the temporary things. Religions only see the various dogmatic or necessary, rules and regulations and distant customs. And they fight over that, But the closer you get to the goal, the more you see that actually this is not what we're here for. We're here to try to help everyone to reach the goal, no matter what their sampradaya, no matter who they are, any religion or whatever you call it. Try to see how that can become united in the same objective. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Ramanujaacarya ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna.
Janananda Swami Maharaj ki jai.